Why is it so hard to resist the emotional kickback from past negative events? We start on our spiritual self growth journeys and we try to operate from new positive set of beliefs. But sometimes we feel this pull from past negative events. We have this urge of feeling these familiar negative emotions of lack, insecurity, victimhood, misery, anger. Why does it happen? When we operate from negative thought patterns, the only way we can find release, the only way we can find relief from these feelings of powerlessness is when we receive this emotional kickback. It could take the form of when someone is replaying these negative scenarios in their head and they are indulging in feelings of self blame. So there was a situation where they did not step up and now they are blaming themselves. They are attaching these labels to themselves where they are saying, "You are such a loser, you are such a failure, why didn't you step up?" So, this individual is operating from feelings of unworthiness and powerlessness, which are at the bottom rung of the emotional scale. Or it could take the form where this person is again replaying these negative events in their heads, but now instead of self blaming, they are projecting it onto the others who were responsible for this behavior, and they are the jerks, the insensitive people, the bullies who did it to them. So, in this case, it feels a little better because instead of feeling sorry for themselves, they are now feeling this anger at the other person. It could also take the form where someone indulges in these future fantasies where this scenario occurs again in the future, and this person now takes charge of the situation. They confront their bullies, and so it feels better to them. Another form is when people share these anecdotes with people on their team. By that I mean friends, family members, loved ones, and then they tell their version of the story how they were wronged by someone else. And so they get enough consensus from other people and they feel they are validated and they feel this righteous anger at the perpetrator. All these scenarios release these familiar negative emotions that trigger these reward centers in our brains, which then release dopamine. Now, it may sound counterintuitive, but it brings that sense of comfort by indulging in misery, by indulging in this righteous anger, by feeling sorry for ourselves, and then it releases these pent up emotions in the person. That's why gossip and venting feel so cathartic, or it is how someone may feel relieved after a good cry session. And sometimes this behavior can be useful as well because instead of indulging in self loathing, the person is actually blaming someone else, is angry at someone else. So they are moving up the emotional scale. But the problem occurs when people just vent a little, feel better, and then go back to their lives. And this is how normally people operate. When it becomes too much, they complain, they vent, and when they feel better, they go about their day. But the problem is the situation has not been addressed, the emotions have not been processed. So the situation lies there dormant, and the next time something similar happens, all this comes right back up and the cycle continues. Over time, it gets worse. People keep adding to this archive, and we all know of someone who keeps complaining all the time how everyone is a jerk, how the world is so selfish, how it is not good to talk to anyone now. So ultimately, it is destructive, and we want to move to the positive side of the spectrum. Now, initially, when we start making these positive changes, it's going to be hard because we are unfamiliar with these positive scenarios, and so it takes effort to operate from the positive side of the scale because we have not done it in the past. But over time, with persistence, we can do it. That's where goal setting is so important because once we have that goal in mind, once we know what we are moving towards, once we have that anchor, then we can make progress in that direction. So when we start taking ownership of our lives, when we start operating as these responsible people who want to be more positively focused, then we have that anchor, and then using that as a goal, we can orient ourselves in the positive direction so that we are operating from these new positive beliefs. And over time, with repetition, what happens is we form these new neural pathways in our brains. So, as we keep operating from these new beliefs, it gets easier because the nervous system also gets that message that we are not using those old connections in our brain, and we are using these new pathways. And so, over time, slowly it starts getting easier. Transformation occurs when we are able to move the needle from negative side of the spectrum to the positive side, where we are now operating from positive beliefs, and this has become our default programming. So anytime these past negative traumatic events try to pull us down, let's stay strong, let's stay focused on our long-term goal and not be misled by these short-term fixes in the form of emotional kickback. Thanks for watching. Bye.